Why did the computer cross the road?
No.
To get to the other computers.
So silly.
I love animals.
Bunny's Book Club by Annie Silvestro, illustrated by Tatiana Mai Wiss. Bunny loved books. He'd loved them ever since he first heard the lady with the red glasses reading aloud outside the library. As he listened, Bunny imagined himself climbing mountains, captaining a ship, ruling a kingdom. But when summer ended, story time moved back inside. Bunny wasn't sure if animals were allowed in the library, but Bunny was sure he couldn't live without books. Night after night, he could hardly sleep for wishing. He had to do something. So, with a flashlight in his paws and hope in his heart, Bunny jumped out of bed and tiptoed through the dark. But when he reached the library door, it was locked. So were the windows. Bunny tried digging, climbing, and yanking. Nothing worked. Until finally he noticed. The book return. The shiny handle was far above his head, but it was no match for a high-hopping bunny hungry for books. Bunny leapt. He clung to the bar, flung himself over, and wriggled his cottontail through the slot. He landed inside with a thud. Bunny's eyes sparkled at the sight of the shelves bursting with books. It was better than a field full of fresh, crunchy carrots. Bunny didn't know where to start. He took a deep breath. It smelled as if he were wrapped inside the pages of his favorite book. He followed his nose to the adventure section. There, he found stories about swashbucklers, sharks, and superheroes. Bunny greedily grabbed them all. His whiskers twitching with excitement, he slipped his treasures through the book slot one by one. Then, performing his best balancing act, Bunny wobbled home. He couldn't wait to dig in. And so Bunny returned to the library each night. He searched and sneaked, then scurried back to read. Then, one evening, a loud knock startled Bunny. He closed his book and opened the door. "Where have you been?" asked Porcupine. "Reading," said Bunny. "Why?" said Porcupine. Bunny's eyes popped wide open. "Why?" he sputtered. "Have you ever been to the library?" It was time for Bunny to let Porcupine in on his secret. Are you sure this is a good idea? Asked Porcupine. Calm your quills, said Bunny. I'm too prickly. I'll never fit. Bunny pushed and shoved until pop went Porcupine. Bunny slipped in and flipped on his flashlight. Whoa, said Porcupine. I know, said Bunny. Do you think there's a story about balloons? I always wondered about balloons. Oh, most definitely, said Bunny. Sure enough, Porcupine found books on balloons and on deserts and dunes, on caterpillars and cocoons. When Bunny handed him one about hedgehogs, he hugged it. The two friends took turns cramming books out the slot. Their towers teetered so high they could barely carry them. Back at Bunny's, they cozied up with cups of tea and carrot muffins. Together, they read until sunrise. Look at that cute lamp. One night, Bear noticed the light on at Bunny's. He opened the door and tripped over a stack of books. What's going on? Said Bear. Here, said Bunny, handing him a book. Bear made room and settled in to read. Soon, more curious animals began visiting. Do you have any books about outer space? Said Bird. Oh, look at this cute sign. Burrow, sweet burrow. Tippy, you would love that. Or about volcanoes? Asked Mole. I'd like a ghost story, said Mouse. I think it's time for a field trip, said Bunny. One by one, the animals stuffed themselves inside the library. Bear caused a bit of a delay. They scattered about, sniffing the stacks, pawing over pages. Squirrel gathered stories about the circus. Raccoon nabbed one about outlaws and bandits. Frog found a fairy tale. These guys are so funny. No one heard the key in the front door. No one heard the clack, clack, clacking of footsteps. No one heard the light flick on. Uh-oh. What do we have here? Said the librarian. The animals looked up in shock. Bunny gasped. Porcupine gaped. Bear groaned. Follow me, she said. The animals marched slowly behind her. We're done for, whispered Porcupine. All libraries have rules, said the librarian sternly. Bunny's whiskers trembled. Porcupine's back bristled. Bear eyed the door. Bunny stepped forward to take the blame. The librarian leaned down. The first rule is every book lover must have one of these, she said. She handed Bunny and his friends shiny new library cards. Now you may borrow books, she said, smiling, as long as you return them, of course. Bunny couldn't believe his ears. They could keep coming to the library. He beamed at his fellow readers. They bounced to the shelves. He picked the perfect book, and he proudly checked out the very first official selection for Bunny's Book Club. Oh, I love it. Book clubs are the best. Everybody's got a book selection, cozy fireplace, a comfy reading chair, some delectable snacks. little captain's chair. This is great. The end. About the author, Annie Silvestro and Tatiana Maiwas. When you open a book, you discover a world. Love is Kind by Laura Saucy, illustrated by Lisson Chaperon. It's a little tree house. Little Owl jiggled the coins in his pocket. It was Grammy's birthday, and finally he had enough money to buy her something special, a heart-shaped box of chocolates. He took out the coins, so shiny, and ready to spend. But then, oh no, come back! The coins rolled down until wobble, ping, they landed right by Beaver's dam. Beaver cheered. Mommy, you were wrong. The Tooth Fairy came after all. She brought me 3 silver coins. Wait, Little Owl hollered. Those are But then he stopped. Beaver looked so happy. Wow, you're lucky. Have a tooth-terrific day, said Little Owl. His gift for Grammy would have to wait. Love is patient. As he headed back home, something caught Little Owl's eye. Money! I can buy that heart-shaped box of chocolates after all. That's when he saw the sign. Missing $1. If found, return to Mrs. Mouse. Little Owl's feathers quivered. He really wanted those chocolates for Grammy, but he did not want to buy them with Miss Mouse's money. Ding dong. I think this is yours. Mrs. Mouse clapped her paws. Thank you. Now I can get the nursery ready. Mr. Mouse and I are expecting babies. Little Owl smiled. That's wonderful news. Congratulations. Love is kind. Love rejoices in the truth. Cute little house. Little Owl shuffled on. Then, what does he see? He sees some bugs on the sunflowers. Oh, there's something hiding over here. Thump! He bumped into Rabbit. Rabbit had 3 heart-shaped boxes of chocolates. For Ma, for Pa, and for me, Rabbit sang. Little Owl's feathers stood on end. You have 3? That's not Little Owl stopped. Getting angry wouldn't get Grammy those chocolates. Little Owl took a deep breath. That's nice, Rabbit. Enjoy your candy. Thanks, said Rabbit. Then off she hopped. Love does not envy. It's not easily angered. It does not dishonor others. Little Owl's heart felt empty. So much for getting Grammy something special. But then, oh, it's like a thunderstorm coming. Rabbit hopped back and handed Owl a coupon. So you can get some too. Good for one box of Chipmunk's famous chocolates. Little Owl flipped. I'm getting Grammy chocolates. I'm getting Grammy chocolates. He danced through the meadow to Chipmunk's chocolate shop. Love is not self-seeking. It always hopes. But just as he rounded the corner, he spotted Chipmunk holding up a sign that said, "Closed." Little Owl gasped. "Are you closing for the day?" "Sure am," Chipmunk chattered. "I need to make some more chocolates for the morning." Little Owl gulped. "I understand. Have a good night." Little Owl had nothing to give Grammy for her birthday, nothing but a crinkled coupon. Then, whoosh, the wind snatched even that away. Empty-winged, Little Owl slumped all the way to Grammy's. Little Owl tried to hold back the tears, then told Grammy says, "Why so glum?" And then he told Grammy all about Beaver and Mrs. Mouse and Rabbit and Chipmunk's chocolate shop. Grammy smiled. "Little Owl, you spread love everywhere you went today." "That's better than any heart-shaped box of chocolates." Little Owl's feathers twitched. "Really? Love never gives up. Love never fails." He looked at his reflection in Grammy's picture window and giggled. "Well, it's not chocolates, but I guess I did give you a heart-shaped gift after all. Me. Shaped like a heart." "And that is the best gift of all," said Grammy. "That is beautiful." The true meaning of love. Little Owl is on a quest to buy his Grammy the perfect gift for her birthday, a heart-shaped box of chocolates, but several things go wrong along the way. Will Little Owl discover that the true meaning of love isn't found in a box, even one filled with delicious chocolates? Based on love described in 1 Corinthians 13, this charming and heartfelt journey celebrates the bond that kids have with their grandparents and the many forms that love and happiness can take. Lulu's Party, Playtime with Friends by Kit Chase. There's Lulu and Oliver and Charlie. It was a raining, pouring sort of day, and Lulu wanted to have a party. She invited some friends to tea, but nobody said much. So she called Charlie and Oliver. "Come to my party," Lulu said. "I have the perfect treat for a rainy day." "A rainy day treat," said Charlie. "We'll be right over." So Lulu fluttered about, making preparations. "Now for the special treat," she said. Lulu poured warm milk into a bowl, then added a cupful of chocolate. Hot chocolate. With everything ready, Lulu waited for her friends by the window. She even has balloons. "Thanks for coming," said Lulu. "Here's the special treat." Everyone took a drink. Oliver didn't say anything. Charlie didn't say anything. "Bleh," said Lulu. "It needs to be sweeter," said Oliver. "Add some honey." "And creamier," said Lulu. "I'll add some cream." "It needs to be more chocolatey," said Charlie, "but there's no chocolate left." It still tasted awful. "This party is a disaster," cried Lulu. Charlie whispered to Oliver, "Look what I found." Quietly, they got to work. They brought their surprise to Lulu. "Did you fix the hot chocolate?" she asked. "Not exactly," said Oliver, "but try this cold chocolate." "Chocolate milkshakes," cried Lulu. "This is the perfect treat." Circus today. And it was a merry party after all. Cute little friends. Free snacks. Now that's a party. To my mummy and grandmother, who taught me that a little love and chocolate can fix anything. I agree with that. It's pretty true. Charlie, Oliver, and Lulu, 3 adorable best friends who are ready to play. The end. This Moose Belongs to Me by Oliver Jeffers. Wilfred owned a moose. He hadn't always owned a moose. The moose came to him, well, a while ago, and he knew, just knew, that it was meant to be his. He thought he would call him Marcel. He began following Marcel, explaining the rules of how to be a good pet. Much of the time, it seemed as though the moose wasn't listening. But Wilfred knew he was, mostly because he followed rule number 4 very well, not making too much noise while Wilfred plays his record collection. That's a good rule. Sometimes the moose wasn't a very good pet. He generally ignored Rule 7, going whichever way Wilfred wants to go. The moose had a very good sense of direction, and Wilfred did not. And because the moose was particularly poor on rule number 7, subsection B, maintaining a certain proximity to home, Wilfred quickly learned to bring some string along on their outings so he could find his way back again. Sometimes the moose was an excellent pet. He had no trouble with Rule 11, providing shelter from the rain. Or Rule 16, knocking down things that are out of Wilfred's reach. Good work. One day, as Wilfred discussed their plans for the coming year on a particularly long walk, he made a terrible discovery. Someone else thought she owned the moose. "Rodrigo, you're back!" Wilfred was dumbstruck. This moose was Marcel, not Rodrigo. The old lady was mistaken. Wilfred thought it was only proper that he corrected her. "This moose belongs to me," he explained. And to prove it, he called Marcel. "Heel." But the moose did not respond. He seemed more interested in the old lady. "Good, Rodrigo." "Fine." Embarrassed and enraged, Wilfred rushed off for home. But in his haste, and miles away from anywhere, he tripped over his string and got all tangled up. And there he lay. Wilfred was beginning to get a little bit worried. It was getting late and the monsters would be out soon. He had just ruled out the last of his options when along came the moose. And performed Rule 73 brilliantly, rescuing your owner from perilous situations. All was forgiven, and perhaps Wilfred admitted he'd never really owned the moose anyway. With that in mind, he and the moose reached a compromise. The moose would agree to all of Wilfred's rules. Whenever it suited him. Just like a cat. Cats are like that, very selfish. "Dominic, you're back, and you brought me an apple." Everybody owns the moose. The end. There's the string.
Why did the computer cross the road?
No.
To get to the other computers.
That's so silly.
Why did the computer cross the road? To get to the other computers.
That's so silly. Dylan.
Thank you.